I want to share with you something really near and dear to my heart. There was a time when I came to realize that what I was doing wasn't working. Are you in that situation? Are you in a situation where what you're doing just isn't working? It should work. You figured it all out. You've planned it. The curriculum says to do it. You've tried. You've done your best. In fact, you've done really, really well. But somehow it's just not working. Today, I want to share with you why I changed my writing programs and my language arts programs. I want you to learn from my mistakes, and I want you to be able to grow the way I grew so that your students can grow too. I've been teaching language arts for years. I taught as a substitute teacher for grades 6 to 12, and I did that regularly. I was a regular substitute for one of the teachers who was also the phys ed teacher and was always out with the team somewhere because we lived in the north. I homeschooled my own kids for years. I taught classes of my kids and their friends all before I began my own business. I had lots of experience. And I had great success teaching the process of writing and literature analysis. But there were some kids, and very honestly, as much as I didn't like to think about it, very often too many, who just didn't excel. And I couldn't understand why. The process worked. This should work. When I spoke with them directly, they obviously understood. They knew what they were doing. They knew what the process was. They knew the next step. When I had a meeting with them, they had no trouble writing. Writing was not the problem. They had roadblocks keeping them from succeeding. During this period in my life, I was also growing and learning a lot as well. I realized that I had wasted a large part of my early life. I had wasted my potential and time by being afraid to fail, by being afraid to stand out, by being afraid to work hard, because deep down, some of the fundamental core beliefs that I had were that if I was intelligent, I wouldn't have to work hard. And that's just not true. I had let fear stand in my way, and my students were doing the same thing. It was time to change so that I could grow, so that my program could grow, and so that my students, most importantly, could grow. So what mistakes was I making? First of all, I was believing that knowing the writing process, knowing the skills and the grammar and the punctuation and how sentences worked was going to make a good writer. I thought that my students would come to me wanting to learn and be motivated, that they would actually care about writing, at least a little bit. Even if it was just for the grade, at least they would want to do well. I believed in my content, and I planned content lessons, but I neglected growth lessons. I neglected note-taking, and I neglected some of the fundamental skills in organization and self-discipline that are really, really important for writing. So how did I make this change? Because I want you to learn how you can look at your life and how you can see where you're struggling and you're doing things that just aren't working. What I did was I worked backwards. What was my big dream? What did I want from life? Is this all I wanted? I just wanted to teach. I did just want to teach. I love to teach. I love to interact with students, and I love to help them. But my big dream, was it just to teach? Did it matter whether the students grasped it, succeeded, excelled? Or was it just about me? Was it just about me teaching? Of course it wasn't. My big dream, when I was really honest with myself, when I evaluated myself and my future and what I really wanted from it, was I wanted to make a difference. We're called to make a difference. We're called to invest in people and in their lives and in their spiritual lives. We're called to make a difference. And I wanted to do that. I'm not concerned about leaving a big legacy. That's not me at all. But I did want to make a difference. And the best way I knew how to make a difference was to teach my students to make a difference. So I'm inviting you, when your student comes into my class, to work with me towards my big dream of changing the world by having your student change the world on my behalf with the skills that I teach them. I wanted to give my students the skills that they needed to make a difference in their own lives and in the world. So I had to sit down and evaluate and consider, what skills did they need to make the kind of difference that I wanted them to make in the world? I wanted them to be confident. I wanted them to be confident speakers, to believe in themselves, to be able to stand up straight, to be able to look people in the eye and to answer them well. I wanted them to be persuasive, because those skills really bring success in every area of our life. I wanted them to be able to manage their time, their self-discipline, their own motivation. I wanted them to learn to be able to push through hard things, to work hard and work on those hard days and push through and face their fears. I wanted them to be able to change their thinking patterns so that they could see that challenge or failure is an absolutely normal part of life, and it's a normal part of growth. It's not a sign that they're less than someone else. It's a sign that they need to work hard in that area, that they need to grow in that area. It's an opportunity, not a brick wall. So then I began to ask myself, what can I do in my classroom? How can I create an environment that will foster these skills? The first thing was that I needed to have positive peer pressure. I needed to have students in my class that actually cared, that really wanted to learn these skills. It was important to me that I was able to get buy-in from my students. This is why you won't see students in my class that don't care. I will actually turn parents down and say, I don't think this is a good fit. Your student really isn't interested in advancing their own abilities. They need to be in a positive peer pressure environment so that they can see that other people are working hard too. They also needed to have one-on-one support. They needed a mentor, someone to help them personally, someone that they could actually be honest with, because I knew that they weren't going to be completely open and transparent in class. But I really have developed those relationships with many of the students in my classes now. I wanted them to take some responsibility, for have natural consequences and accountability and mentoring. These are things that really come through in my classes. We talk about natural consequences. We talk about accountability, and I'm there to mentor them every step of the way. This is why I invest so much time and energy into your students. I don't get paid for half of the hours I spend with your students, not at a reasonable rate. And it just really matters to me to build relationships with my students. This is not something that you can just learn out of a book or learn out of the video. We can know how to do all these things, but it's in relationship that we really make great gains in growth mindset, because we need that accountability. And as teenagers, it's really, really hard to find that with your parents. I wanted to be there for those students so that I could help them to move forward, that I could be a safe place for them. I also wanted my students to have quick gains in small things to help them boost their confidence so that they could realize that they had agency. Most students that come to me don't actually believe they can make a difference. They believe that if they don't know how to do something, they just can't do it. And that's a closed mindset. But I wanted them to make some small gains right away, very quickly, to realize that they can have confidence that when they set their mind to something, they can accomplish it and it's going to make a difference. And that's going to increase their willingness to apply themselves and to be disciplined and to work hard. It's going to help them to trust that process. My classes offer this opportunity for them to have those small things to boost their confidence. Every single assignment gets feedback on it, not check marks and X's, but how they can improve at the next step, because that's a growth mindset process. That what you did now, this is good for now, but now it's time to grow even more. And that's how I want them to think about themselves and their own processes in life. So let's look at the mistakes that I made and how you can avoid them. The very first mistake is that if the students know the writing skills, that they're going to be able to write. You've been teaching your student for years and years. You've taught them sentence structure, you've taught them grammar, punctuation, you've taught them vocabulary and spelling and all of these skills. But pulling all those skills together is a completely different story. They've probably even written paragraphs, but to take those paragraphs and somehow know instinctively how to make them persuasive and logical, those aren't skills that just happen. It doesn't just happen that when students have all the building blocks, that they can just miraculously put them together. The second is that if I teach the process, that'll be enough. You've taught them probably to brainstorm, to make outlines, to make a draft, to edit and revise. You've probably taught them all of these skills. Your curriculum probably teaches this and you've followed it, you've done the things that you're supposed to do, but somehow the writing is just not coming. You don't know what to say, you don't know what to do. The third thing is believing that they're going to figure it all out. With practice, if we practice this skill enough, they're going to be able to do it. What happens when we practice something not well? Even if it's technically correct, but it's missing the artistic quality or the persuasive quality. When we practice something again and again and we practice it poorly, we're not practicing good skills and we're not learning good skills. The way to practice and develop good skills is to practice it well. Doing something again and again, but not doing it well is not what we want. Students are not going to miraculously just wake up someday and know how to write persuasively and logically. They're not going to wake up one day and just understand how to make it interesting for their reader. These are individual processes and skills that we need to teach our students through feedback, through support, and through help, because those skills are skills that can't be taught in a true-false test. It's really important that we teach those skills, because otherwise, as our student writes and writes and writes and writes, they hate it more and more. They underscore and they devalue themselves. They underscore their beliefs that they're not good at this. They undervalue themselves more and more. And they're actually validating those negative thinking patterns that they already have. So it's so, so important that you don't make these mistakes in your homeschool language arts. When you are visioning what it's going to look like, when you are seeing how you can revise and change your language arts program, I hope that you will keep in mind that students need constant, caring feedback, that they need mentorship and accountability, that students really need someone who's going to be able to help them to move forward. And you might be that person. And if you're not, don't make the mistake that I made. For years, I didn't reach out and get help to figure out how to figure these things out. I spent most of my life believing the things I believed about myself without figuring out how to overcome them, without discovering a path forward. We really want to equip our students to be able to create that path forward, to change their negative thinking, to create a growth mindset as early as possible, because that is going to make all of the difference. And what if you want to do this for yourself, for your own personal development? That area where you're struggling, that area where you feel like you're giving everything, you're doing all the right things, but somehow it's just not working. I want to encourage you. What are your dreams? What are your goals? What are you imagining could possibly happen? Work backwards from there. Just choose one and work backwards. And then ask yourself, what skills do I need as a parent so that I can get to where I need to be? If you are working with a student who is struggling and you really want to make a difference and you want to do what I did to help your student, so you want to have your dream be for them and you want to set up an environment so that they can learn and grow the way that I set up an environment so they can learn and grow in my classes, it's oh so important that you have consistency, that you can follow through, that you can be emotionally stable to be able to talk them through it, talk them down when they're frustrated. The little trick is, as someone outside their home, they don't see all of my mistakes. They don't see all of the places where I struggle. I share some places with them so they realize that I'm human too. But at home, your students see you day in, day out. They know how flawed you are. My students don't see that. My students see me talking about areas of my life, and we talk about areas of their lives. So I don't see their whole life, and they don't see my whole life. As a parent, you see their whole life. And so you might be working in one small area, and then you'll see them falling apart in another area that's almost exactly the same. And it's so frustrating because if they could just learn this one thing, it would carry over into all of the areas. I don't see that. So for the student, it's much more encouraging. So you just have to be sure, if you're doing this for your student, that you also can follow through the same process in your own life, that you're growing, that you're developing, that this is a journey that you're on as well. So what daily habits can you incorporate into your life that are going to help you reach your dreams and goals? Help you reach your dreams and goals for your student? It's time to make some changes. Time to get some accountability for you. Time to get some accountability for your student. Time to find support for you, and time to find support for your student. If you want to learn and you want to grow, and you want to use this process of working backwards to make a difference in your life, it takes a lot of personal discipline. It takes a lot of skills. And you know what? I fall down every day. And I get back up and I try again. I make a new plan so that I can avoid the problems that made me fall today. And there's no shame in that. It's just a hurdle. I just have to keep on going. I have to get past that hurdle. I have to keep trying until I beat that thing. And you can do it too. Don't be discouraged, parents. You can do this too. If you're interested in getting more support for your student, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. In the comments below, can you please tell me, what is the one thing that stands in the way of you being the person that could help your student in this area of developing a growth mindset? Or what is the one thing that stands in your student's way for growth mindset? I'd love to hear that from you. I hope you have a wonderful day. I can't wait to talk to you again. Please reach out, email me, message me. I want to hear from you. I'll talk to you again soon.